Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to call to order this special meeting, Thursday, April 4th, 2024, for the public hearing on the 2024-2025 school budget. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Trustee Mitchell? Present. Trustee Middleton?
Present.
Trustee Njenga?
Here.
Trustee Gale?
Here.
Trustee White?
Present.
Trustee Saunders?
Here.
VP Kelly? And President Kerwin.
Here.
We have a quorum. This evening's public hearing is on the proposed 2024-25 school budget, totaling $271,266,317, which reflects an increase of 1.99% over fiscal year 2023-2024 budget and will result in a zero change in the tax levy. Ms. Mike, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Trustees, superintendent, colleagues, community, and group. I'm here to present the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget.
Miss Mike, can you speak more into the mic?
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Sorry. What is a budget? Oscar?
Your computer messed up with you.
Not the right page. What the hell is that?
Back to. No, that's it.
Hold on. I'll just continue to say a school budget describes a district plan for the upcoming fiscal year as it relates to anticipated revenues or inflows and expenditures, which are outflows. Overview, the 2024-25 Mount Vernon City School District proposed budget is a spending plan geared towards meeting and fulfilling academic, social, emotional, and safety goals of the district. There is a video, Oscar, that says Public School Budgets 101. I'll continue to the next page, and then we'll get there. Good?
Did you see that bus go by? Oh, there goes another one. Well, these buses, like schools, are funded by a school district's budget. School budget is just a quick way to say what it costs to educate students. On average, 77% of New York school budgets are used to cover the salaries and benefits of the people who make education possible, like teachers, school aides, counselors, nurses, cleaners, mechanics, secretaries, administrators, coaches, and bus drivers. The budget also pays for the desk a student sits at, the book she reads, the classroom she learns in, the field she plays on, the device she uses for research, the test tube she studies, the music she reads, and the fuel that gets her bus home at the end of the day. So what else is in there? Well, there's also funding to meet special state and federal rules known as mandates. There are mandates about transporting students, maintaining school facilities, training staff, establishing safety practices, providing accessible classrooms, meeting learning standards, and much more. Schools must also prepare students to compete for tomorrow's jobs with more innovative technology, real-world projects, and individualized attention. Now that's a lot on the expenses side. And by law, school budgets must be balanced. Expenses anticipated for the year ahead, the money going out, must be matched by anticipated revenue, the money coming in. Most money for New York schools comes from two key sources: state funds and local property taxes. Federal aid, often in the form of grants, accounts for less than 5% of school funding. State aid is negotiated annually by the governor and the legislature, and state funds have provided about 40 to 45% of school revenue over the last 10 years. That leaves half of the pie to be filled by local property taxes. This tax levy slice is how communities fund their local schools. It's an investment that pays off with an educated workforce, more vibrant local communities, and a stronger economy. It's also a careful investment that considers the skills students need to succeed in future jobs, the cost of school programs and services, the state aid coming to public schools, and how much support local taxpayers can afford. School board members and school leaders consider all of this as they work throughout the year to manage school district finances and plan for the future. Ultimately, voters have the final say on school budgets when they head to the polls in May. To learn more before you cast your vote, check your local school district website or stop by a school board meeting. After all, the school budget directly affects your community, and gathering your input is an important part of the process.
Now to the next page, which says Budget Committee. In preparation of the proposed budget, a committee is formed, consists of Lorna Kerwin, Board President, Sabina Kelly, Vice President, Dr. Smith, Acting Superintendent, Orville Gale, Trustee, Adrian Saunders, Trustee, Tom Keller, Community Member, Derek Clay, Community Member, yours truly, and Mark Ramondi, Associate Superintendent. What this committee does is to track spending to ensure that it aligns with the district goals. It tracks revenue, including state aid. It also is a part of idea sharing with Board of Ed and Business Office. The Budget Committee is committed to a long-range analysis and overview of the budget process in terms of expenditure and revenues to ensure that the district goals are supported in the budget. Furthermore, the Budget Committee recommends financial considerations that may help accelerate achieving district goals. Also during the process is business budget planning. Restricted reserve used to support zero tax levy increases. And these restricted reserves have been used strategically to supplement the revenue needed to balance the budget. Our restricted reserves are depleted as of FY25, which is 24-25, and will need to be replenished. It's also time to carefully track spending and revenues. We track state aid. We look at reducing spending in an ongoing process. We ensure that the non-essential expenditures are monitored. We also pursue for additional sources of revenue, like grants, federal grants. Also, school tax collection. We began collecting school taxes in-house since 2020, 2021. This has helped to mitigate the shortfall in tax revenue for the year. City Hall has made an agreement with us to pay us $450,000 monthly for taxes in arrears. Prior to that, they were paying us $350,000. Going forward, they'll be paying us an additional $100,000. The past due balance for that $11.7 million that was owed to us, now the balance is $5.4 to date. Restricted reserve. What are restricted reserve? They are restricted for a particular use. That means if you set up a restricted reserve, it can only be used for that particular purpose. Or reserve that are used to contributed to the fiscal year's budget of 2024-2025. Workers' comp, $12,934. Retirement contribution is $112,900. Employees' benefit is $79,888. For the past 8 years, the Mount Vernon City School District depended on reserves which are now low or depleted. The focus for the next year should be on replenishing these reserves. As of May 21st, 2024 budget vote, we will be owed $5,434,627 from the city school for taxes before, which I just said in the prior slide. The district has been named highly fiscally stressed, and that means we don't have any reserve. If anything happens, we need some reserve to basically meet the needs of the district. It's like having a savings account. There's a potential for a $50 million capital repair bond for September 2024. Bids were received, but this requires community approval. Unpaid taxes for fiscal year 2021-2022 are $4,737,000 and change, and for 2022-2023 are $5.5 million. Now we're going to look at the budget at a glance. The draft proposed budget as of 4/4/2024 is $271,266,317. When we look at the budget-to-budget increase fiscal year over fiscal year, the overall increase is $5.3 million or 1.99%. The major increases, legal services, $415, and that is an increase in litigation. Program for special ed, charter school, tuition, other schools, 4.7. Transportation, $692,360, and this is because of additional routes. Health insurance went up, $759,128. Facilities, in regards to the annual service contract and general contractor. Liability insurance, we changed from nicer to Brown and Brown, and as a result, it increased. NIBEST, sorry. Major decreases in the debt and pupil personal services. The revenue breakdown. Where do we get our revenue? When I started, I said the revenue as inflows and the expenses as outflows. Where do we get these inflows? The property taxes remains the same as of the current fiscal year, $135,947,117. State aid is $114,201,591, and the total restricted fund balance used to help balance the budget is $6.9 or $7 million. Other revenues, $14 million. Other revenues in terms of different, like pilots, payment in lieu of taxes that we receive from the city, etc. So our state aid is 42%, our property tax is 50%, other revenue 5%, which leaves us a little fund balance of 3%. That's the area we need to build. The state mandated that we prepare a three-part budget. And what that consists of is the administration portion, the capital portion, and the program. For fiscal year 24-25, we are proposing administration to be $23 million or 8.6%, 63%. Capital, $20.9 or 56.9 million. Program, $70.39, 190. The three-part budget is a detailed list showing the expenses a school district is proposing in the budget plan going to voters. By law, district must divide their budgets into three categories: administrative, capital, and program component. The program component, as you notice, take up the bigger piece of the pie, 70%. The administration, 9%, and capital, 21%. Budget highlights. We continue to maintain excellent teachers and staff. Comprehensive rewriting and mapping of curriculum. Increased avenues for CTE certification. Continuation of dual language programs. Continue to support music, fine art, performing arts, and theater production. Continue to support STEAM initiatives, math and science. We also will continue to provide alternative pathways to college and career readiness, such as barbering, cosmetology, auto shop, and cybersecurity. No Place for Hate initiative for K-12. MTSS implementation for all K-8 schools. Support early childhood instruction programs, such as pre-K, to ensure that students are ready for kindergarten. Continue to invest in technology, new student information system, SIS, technology software to meet the needs of students, and a focus on reading and writing through strengthening literacy initiative. The superintendent's goal is back to basic. So when I see reading, writing, and arithmetic, I think about being back to basics. 24-25 budget highlights. We continue to maintain and restore the services built over the past 8 years, such as nurses, counselors, clinicians. Continue to provide professional development for technology integration, academic programs, and a culturally responsible, and sustainable curriculum. Multi-tiered systems of support, restorative practices in a social science that studies how to improve and repair relationships between people and communities. The purpose is to build healthy communities, increase social capital, decrease crime and antisocial behavior, and restore relationships. Community parents liaison. Community school. This is both a place and a set of partnership between the school and other community resources. Its integrated focus on academics, health, and social services, youth and student learning, stronger families, and healthier communities. Community schools offer a personalized curriculum that emphasizes real-world learning and community problem solving. Schools become centers of the community and are open to everyone, all day, every day, evenings, and weekends. We're going to continue to invest in social and emotional learning and mental wellness. SEL, or social emotional learning, is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. These highlights continue from this current school year to next with some additional ones. Now, you know that in a budget we always have mandates, things that we don't have any control of. The mandate impacts our charter school. In the budget for 24-25 is $13 million. Health insurance, $34.6. Other employee benefits, 19, and other obligations to community schools to a portion of foundation aid is 1.6. This particular area has not been changed for the past couple of years. This was something that Governor Cuomo brought into effect, and as a result, it's still there over and over, but the numbers never changed for this particular area. The impact of zero to minimal tax levy increase. If you look at the chart, you will see the different ups and downs. For 2024-2025, it's 271, 266, 317. That's the top portion. And of course, the levy, the tax, remains the same. Now, what happens if this budget is defeated? There can be a second vote. The board provides direction. The board could also adopt a contingent budget. Now, what is a contingent budget? A contingent budget removes all furniture and equipment and all capital projects. There can be no major repair projects done through the state. I see some hands raised up there. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, I'll now open the floor for comments on the 2024-2025 budget.
I have a question, a couple actually. So you said fiscal stress in the beginning of the presentation, which is something we've been aware of, and according to this metric, the impact, this says that the cost to run this district has gone up consistently for the past, looks like almost 10 years, correct? But the taxes have pretty much stayed basically the same. So with that being said, another year of a zero tax increase, how does that speak to the competitive salaries for our teachers and our CSCA workers? Teachers who are right now in negotiations, which you know about, they've come here and they're here on a regular basis. Is it fiscally responsible for us to continue to take another zero tax increase with that in mind, when we're already struggling to keep teachers here, keep administrators here, but yet we're increasing litigation costs because we're being sued, or other things?
Within this current year's budget and next year's budget, there was an amount agreed upon that is within this budget. I don't think I'm at liberty to say what it is.
Okay.
The percentage. I'm not at liberty to say that.
Okay, I wasn't asking the percentage. I was just asking, is it truly, do you really feel that it's fiscally responsible that we should continue in this pattern?
I try to take my feelings out of anything. If you're asking me if I think this is a responsible budget based on the conditions, yes.
And that's even with, okay, that's fine, I understand, that's fine. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a parent of children in this district currently right now. These are my own kids. They come home to me every day. I help them with the homework and all of that. And then I know there were members of the committee involved in this. People in the public have always asked the question, like, which board members have kids in the district? Which members of the committees have children in the district? Because it means you have a true vested interest. That impacts how it looks to the rest of the public who are maybe watching this right now, maybe sitting in here or going to hear about this in the next week. Our reserves were depleted over the past years, and that was to always make the budget work, right? And that's why we're out of reserve now. And that's also in part because of the city owing us money in addition to compounded by zero tax increases the whole
and
time.
The state owes $10 million in state aid in arrears. Yeah.
Now, considering this is going to be, I think, what is going to be our 10th year, or not 10th, but 8th year out of 10, we're going to try to put the zero tax increase. Is at any point, do we have to ever worry that the state could come in and impose a tax increase that our property owners may be daunted by if they were to see it? Is that a possibility of that ever happening?
The state will increase the taxes?
Can the state come in and impose a tax increase?
Authorities who increase taxes.
I'm just asking a question. I don't know.
No.
No.
It can't happen.
No.
That can never happen.
No.
Okay, thank you. That was something I was willing. I just needed to know. I wanted some clarity on that. And of course, the last thing I'm going to talk about were two things. First of all, huge, $4.7 million for charter schools. That's the biggest thing on the list. If that doesn't scream volumes, it should.
It does.
That's a problem. And there's a reason why our parents don't have faith in our district. We have to put out $4.7 million, and that number keeps going up every year, I think, for the past few years. If the pilots were not there, if there were no pilots given to these these developers, that $14 million, that would come from, it would be much more than that. It would be coming from property owners, wouldn't it? Is that how that works?
Within that $14 million, I mentioned pilots, but it's other small revenues. I just mentioned pilot, it's one of the big ones. We got some back taxes, interest and penalty on taxes, health service, other districts. So it's different things that make up the miscellaneous amount, not just pilots.
Right. I'm just really coming from a standpoint of how the pilots that the city offers to these developers is actually negatively impacting this school district. That's really what I'm trying to, if there were no pilots, or if the pilots were reconsidered for a different amount with different stipulation, wouldn't that mean that more of that money would come from these developers in the full amount what they should be paying?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it. All right, I'm done.
So I just want to make reference to what Trustee Mitchell said about trustees who on the board does not have kids in the district. Let me just make it clear that trustees does not have to have students that goes to the school district. Once you're a taxpayer, you could run for the trustee seat. So I just want to make that clear. So trustees does not have to have a child attending the school district.
I'm taking myself up at it, but I remember my dad saying, "You're my last child, why am I paying taxes?" So I understand that, yeah.
I also want to state that even though you don't have children in the school system, you live in the community, you're a stakeholder. At some point, your children did go through the school. You've invested in your community. You have a right to be respected as part of the solution to your community.
No, just,
I have one question I just wanted to ask. The money that we're getting from the city, will that help to offset what Trustee Mitchell asked about the taxes? Will it help adding that extra 100?
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Even the regular operating expenditures, it helps, yes.
So if we were to do it now, where will we be on the list? Will we still be in the red or will we be in the yellow? I know we won't be in the green, but will we be in the yellow?
We'll be edging up to a better place.
To a better place?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Testing. When you always think about a budget, and Trustee Mitchell brought this out, it is easy to look at litigation and say that number is growing. And what we have to understand that when you look at litigation, that is always going to be a variable number. You're never going to know what that number is. And that is not a frivolous number because that's a number pertaining to kids and parents that are in schools and things that may happen to kids and parents and teachers that are in schools, very much accidental and not intentional. But there is another way to look at that number. When you look at that number and you say litigation costs X, then you have to look at, well, what happens if you went to the finish line with any cause of action? There may be a Y, and that delta is what the school saves and the district saves to a degree. So oftentimes people look at litigation and say that's money going out. And I would suggest that there's another way to look at it. Look at the money that's being saved. Because if someone told you that you can resolve a matter for $5 versus paying $500, you would take that at any moment. And so that's a savings of $495,000. So just be mindful as we look at that variable and we look at it in reference to the budget, what's the alternative? And we are talking about a jurisdiction where everybody feeds off of one another, right? We're trying to care for the kids. We're trying to care for our teachers. We're trying to have a better district. But these things happen that inevitably hurts the district, but we have to be responsible for. And that's a very, very, very tight walk to have to navigate without doing some of the other things.
hey, just one quick point, following up on Trustee Mitchell and Trustee Kerwin's answer. As a taxpayer, I pay as much taxes as anyone here on the board. So whether a person has kids in the district or not, they have a stake in keeping taxes as low as possible and getting the best out of what we have. So the point of trustees having kids or not is irrelevant as long as the person is doing their best to keep the district functioning properly. So, people always bring up whether you have kids in the district. It's kind of irrelevant if somebody's really concerned about helping the district. Doesn't matter whether you have kids or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. I also wanted to ride on that because You know, last night a tree from our neighbors fell over into our yard. So now we have to figure out how we're going to do the cleanup because half of it is in our yard and half of it is in the city's yard. And we're homeowners. And when we first moved there 20 years ago, we were paying $9,000 a year. Now we're paying close to 22, 21. So it's kind of a slap in the face to say, if you don't have children in the district, you don't count. You count. Because my child's 18 years old now, and he's no longer in the district. And we're still paying that.
I just want to say that we've taken the taxpayers into consideration, and we have a zero tax levy. And while it might appear irresponsible, and we may have to increase it in years to come, it's 0%. And we are still required to educate our children to the best that we possibly can. So I think that we really had to balance this budget. We worked diligently to do so. You know, our budget committee, we met several times to ensure that we can balance this budget. And I'm really happy we only went up 1.99%. We balanced it. We didn't request any additional taxes from the community, and we're just hopeful that this budget will pass.
The floor is also open for anyone in the audience who may have any questions or comments. Okay. Please come to the mic.
Thomas Kell is one of the committee members, so he's been also involved in establishing this budget.
I've been involved for 30 years on budget committees. Mr. Mitchell, the state can't take school districts over. Yonkers, 5 or 10 years ago. Yonkers is unified, but the mayor, possibly with the okay of the city council, would appoint trustees. And again, time goes so fast, it might have been 10 years. There was a $50 million hole. So under Spano and the rest of the people there, they took it over. They control it much more than they used to. It was always unified, but now they call the shots. Remember Superintendent Ross, Mr. Arrogance, in the early 2000s? He left to go to Roosevelt in Long Island. He bankrupted it. Roosevelt was taken over by the state. We hope this doesn't happen here, and I'm not implying it. But, you know, you'd have to get permission from the state to sharpen a pencil. The control is so bad. You trustees would just be figureheads. You'd have no control. All right, so that's that. When I talked to Ken Silver before he left, he said that the district was spending approximately $1 million a month over budget. So through February, $6 or $7 million. We're now 9 months into the fiscal year, say March 31st. Where are we? Are we on the road to 12 million for this year? $1 million a month? Or have we stopped overspending? And I realize sometimes expenditures are absolutely necessary. In terms of saving money, I said in budget committees many times, we ought to close the Williams School. We've had declining enrollment. It costs too much to keep up. There's no play area for the kids, no parking. It's absolutely the worst. And Ken Silver said Western Suffolk BOCES was doing a study on whether we should close any school. The obvious one is Williams. What's happened with that study? Has it been completed? It's another question to save money. Okay, I guess Ms. Mike has already answered the question, but related to the overspending, I was going to say, is there going to be a fund balance as of June 30th? She said there's not going to be, it's been depleted. So I'll cross that off. Now, the foundation aid. 2.8 million, 2.9 million. Governor Kathy Hochul proposed cutting it by that much. In the past, the governor proposes something and the legislature increases it. Where are we in this? What does Jamal Bailey say? What does Gary Pretlow say? And Kathy Hochul postponed the budget because it couldn't be done Holy Week last week to today. But I heard people that cover the Albany scene saying that it's probably not going to happen until late next week. Do we have a number? Is the 2.8 or 9 going to be restored? Are we going to lose all of it? Are we going to have partially restored? We need to know that before you pass a budget. Let's see. Oh, this business about how much the city owes us. You're agreeing with Comptroller Morton. Ken Silver told me, and John Gallagher's aware of it, 25 to 27 million as of June 30th of this year. The city takes the position that we don't owe you anything until the fifth year from the time that taxes are collected. And they say, okay, 2 years go, this is complicated, but if you go back 2 years, then the city has a responsibility to collect in years 3 and 4. But only in the fifth year does the law say they must pay. And Morton says that we haven't provided tax warrants over the years, so therefore we don't owe that money, and we don't owe it for 4 or 5 years. So Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Keller, at the salary increases that the mayor had and so forth, we're saying it's 25, and he's saying it's 11.7 million minus the 350 or 450 they're paying us every month. If I So, anyway, if I was the city and I wanted to issue bonds, borrow money, whatever, and they didn't mention this as a contingent liability, I'd be a fool to buy those bonds. And I don't know how they're getting away with these TANs and bans that he's talking about, tax anticipation notes, without that in there. I haven't seen a prospectus. I don't know if there's one drawn up.
They did.
Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Keller.
Ken Silver said, if the city paid us all the money we owe, we'd be swimming in money. We wouldn't have this problem.
So, Mr. Keller, are you wrapping up your comments?
Yes.
Because your time is up. But I want to ask you a question, Mr. Keller.
Sure.
You sit on the budget committee, and you just mentioned that Ken Silver, Mr. Silver, told you that the district is overpaying by $1 million a month.
Well, 6 or 7 million over through February. It's about $1 million a month.
So you sat on the committee. Did we discuss that on the committee?
I haven't been invited to the last two. I don't even know if I'm still on the committee. The last meeting I went to was when Silver was here. That was 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago,
Okay.
February 16th.
Okay. I just find it strange that you mentioned that Mr. Silver told you that he was the budget person and he's overspending by $1 billion. And it wasn't brought to the attention of the committee, the budget committee, nor the superintendent.
He brought it to the attention of the budget committee. That's how I found out about it.
Okay. All right, your time is up. Do you want to wrap up your comments?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Employees are not going to like this. If we have to cut, I don't think this budget's balanced, by the way. And I want a long-form budget, you know, the one that's legal size. I'm proposing that people that are making over $200,000 a year take a 20% pay cut. Those people from 150 to 200, 15%. 100 to 150, 10%. 50 to 100, 5%. Under 50, 0.
Mr. Keller, we balanced the budget, and we worked hard on that. Thank you for your advice. In regards to Pretlow and the politicians, they're very supported. From what we understand, the $2.9 million will continue to be in our budget.
Oh, that's good.
Okay? You know, we lobbied up in Albany. We met with the commissioner, Betty Rosa. We've met with most of the politicians in the area, and they're very supportive of us receiving it, and we're even hopeful that we're going to get a 3% increase. Okay, thank you.
3% increase, wow.
So, Mr. Keller.
I wouldn't vote on the budget until the budget's passed in Albany.
Right.
I don't know what date you have to vote on the budget. You have to do it by the 16th, evidently.
Right.
But I would hold off until the last to see how much aid we actually get until the budget's passed in Albany.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. Thank you so much, Mr. Keller, for all your comments. We appreciate it.
Sure you do.
Do we have anyone else?
Love that man.
Good evening, everyone. Keith McCall, President of the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers. My question was just about the state foundation aid. Just wanted to know if that figure was the figure in the governor's original budget, or is it the figure with the revised budget? But you addressed the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Cynthia Crenshaw. Did the, as far
Can't hear you. Can you fix the mic?
Cynthia Crenshaw, as far as the charter school, did they get what they want or no? Because I haven't heard anything about it. We haven't heard anything about that?
No.
Oh, okay. No, that's what I wanted to know. Wait a minute, one more other thing. As far as the legal, can't find it. How much more was that increase? What percentage for the legal expenses? For the lawyers?
Expenses went down.
I see the amount, but what was the percentage of the increase for that?
From last year, you mean?
From last year, yeah, it was 42%?
Went down.
It's a big jump. Okay. And if we're going to maintain excellent teachers and staff, are we near their contract now? Is that coming to a close? That we can maintain excellent teachers and staff?
We're still in negotiations.
Okay. All right. That's what I want to know. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to face you. Good evening. My name is John Gallagher. I reside at 165 East Livonia Avenue. And I'd like to start off by thanking the Budget Committee and the school district for working out these budget numbers. You've probably done a lot of hard work on it, and there's probably a lot of things you had to consider with regards to what you were going to put out as lines for the budget. One of the biggest problems, obviously, with a budget, and certainly in this district and this city per se, is your revenues. I've been an advocate, as most of you know. I've spoken several times up here, and I've spoken to you individually about how pilots have destroyed this city. Pilots in the sense of housing, whether it's market rate, whether it's sub-market rate, low-income housing or whatever, when developers don't pay their fair share of taxes, that burden falls on all of the homeowners. Of course, the city doesn't have to worry about it, because the city has one little nuance that you people do not have. And I told this to our mayor, who seems to be raising a salary every time I see her or wants to raise a salary. I said, you know why you get away with raising the budget? Because people don't have the right to vote on it. People do not have the right to vote on the city budget. And I think that's something that has to be changed, because whether or not you have children in the school system, whether or not your grandparents, whether or not aunts or uncles or whatever, everybody has a stake in pushing this school district forward, because your property values depend on how your school district is run and operated, which is very important, very important. I personally don't have any children in the school system. I wasn't blessed with that. However, I do care for all the kids in the school system, and I worry about our kids with their education. I was a strong advocate of not doing away with vocational programs when another power central group took over the school district. We're not going to get into the politics of it. However, they should have never taken the vocational programs away. We lost a lot of kids in that generation to the streets and gangs and whatnot. And it was a shame because some of these kids could be plumbers, carpenters, automotives. If you take a look at the study, there was a study done not too long ago where there's going to be a shortage of plumbers in this country. There's also a shortage of carpenters because somehow some of these children are not being educated saying, hey, look, you can make a grand living doing that. You don't have to go to college. And if you start looking at the statistics from college, you will see it's very amazing. Some of these people with degrees are making less than some of the kids from high school, and it's a good percentage. And that just came out recently, okay? An education certificate does not mean anything. It means what you want to make out of your life and what you can do for your family. Getting back to pilots, I want you as a school district to stay on top of this. I know you have lawyers on it. I attend some of those IDA meetings, but I also speak to the council and the mayor. And I explain to them what that has done to us financially, okay? And I have the proof at home. One of these days I'll bring it to you. I have a stack of papers that was given to me by somebody in the controller's office before that, showing me the breakdown of what the money is that the school district gets, the county gets, and the city gets from pilots. And how these developers, who I call carpetbaggers, and if you look at the term of carpetbaggers, they come into an area and just drain from and take. That's exactly what these people have been doing. And leaving the burden for the rest of us to pay. Totally, totally wrong. When you look at expenses, one of the other things, Mr. Keller mentioned it, and I am a proponent of it, you have to start looking at your enrollment. Do we really need all these school buildings? I'm not saying pick out a school building, whatever, but we're spending expenses on operation of a school building, and we don't have the children we had. Back when I first got here, I believe our enrollment was close to 12,000 kids a year, okay? We don't have that now. I'll wrap up in a minute. One thumb and stop. Oscar? Thank you. I think what we have to do is we have to look at the enrollment. And of course, I am not a proponent of charter schools, but I understand parents' point of view if they don't think the school district is their medium for children to get their educated. However, I've seen some of the studies, I've seen some of these gentlemen and ladies get up and talk about how our school scores have improved. To me, that's great. To me, that's wonderful. And the fact that you're keeping our taxes low is even more fundamental. Because a lot of my senior citizen friends of mine that own property can't afford these taxes. You just got an 8% increase from the city. The year before, she gave you a 6%. The year before, I should say her and the city council, which I reminded, and I'll wrap up in a second, I reminded the city council since Governor Andrew Cuomo put the tax cap in place, okay, it was either a 2% increase or the rate of inflation was ever lower. The city council has never, ever voted to implement that. So your city taxes have been astronomical because of the nonsense that's going on here. You people have at least look at, as a school board and school board members and as district, as administrators, thought about the taxpayers, and I think that's very important. So thank you. Keep up the good work, but think about how we can cut expenses in the future. And one more thing. I was under the impression, the lady had just brought it up, and when we went out to do outside counsel, that our litigation costs or our legal costs were going to go down. I would like to see the numbers of what our costs last year were too, and what they are projected for this year, because I thought, and there's no offense to Tom and his outfit, who I happen to like, I thought we were going to cut down on our costs. So I'm not saying that prices haven't gone up and per diem hasn't, but I want to see those figures from last year and as to what you projected this year. Thank you.
Isn't it in the budget from last year? Mr. Gallagher, the budget from last year shows what the budget from last year does show what the proposed budget was for legal. You can see it online.
I know, but I don't use, I hate to tell you this, I'm from the old school, I don't use a computer.
It's fine.
Okay? Once I retire.
At home, somebody can get it to you.
Well, I want to see from last year and I want to see this year too, yeah. So I can see the comparison, black and white.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it? Okay.
Thank you, Sandra, Mike, for your presentation.
Thank you. And to go on to our next order of business.
We ran out of space.
We ready?
Can I have a motion for 3.1, authorization for a PO increase for Crown AC Heat and Power Corp.?
Motion.
Second.
Question.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
Just so I'm understanding, so that line of the budget, it says, the slip says is 70,000, which ties to what I see in the budget. So you're saying that we basically under budgeted by 200,000 that PO, correct? So that means the budget that we presented last year was very much too low for what we had actualized or projected, right? Is that what that means? Yes.
How do you get a dead battery?
It's only one mic on that table.
Yeah, but that's what I need is one mic. I wanted the budget we had last year.
Check, okay, sorry about that. So I don't have that number in front of me. To that question, I can't properly answer because I don't have the line in front of me to quote from it. What I will say is when you create a budget, you have an anticipated expenditure, but if an emergency comes up, that could be a possibility, but until I see the number, I can't accurately answer.
Right, no, that's fine. I'm only going on theory here that we are at this point in the school year, that budget that we presented to the people that they voted on, we already have work that we have to do now, plus work we know that's coming. How do we budget so low? Why do we budget that low? Were these ideas of work that was already on hand? Trust me, the plumbing issues, the issues with this stuff has been in place for years now. So I'm just trying to understand. I've asked this question before. Did we actually budget just way too low what we presented to the people? Is that possible?
I mean, anything is possible, but without looking, again, at the exact number, I can't accurately answer that. But normally, we try to budget right on point, and then if emergencies come up, like if your car breaks down, I wasn't ready for new transmission, but here we go, that's outside of my budget range. So, and with our buildings being 100 years old, that happens. So we try to do our best to put an accurate expectation of expenditures, but sometimes variables come in.
So how do we internalize it?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 3.2? Authorization for a PO increase for buildings and grounds?
Motion.
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
Question. I'm looking at the backup to this, and I can't necessarily make out. So the budget for 4024 on the budget is actually 1.6 million. If I'm not mistaken, the last image we looked at for the last document, it actually tied to the budget line. This amount, I don't know if that's supposed to be 1591 or 1691. This was edited manually, and it's not clear.
1591. So that comes in actually under budget. This is for Con Edison. So there was no additional expenditure on this. This was us increasing the PO to cover our normal monthly expenditures for Con Edison.
So then if we're asking for an increase of 500,000, how are we coming to a desired purchase order of the same thing that is shown on the line for current?
So in the beginning, we put aside the 1.6 million to cover Con Edison for the year. At the time, we weren't sure if Con Edison provides our gas. We weren't sure if another company was going to provide our gas because that company and Con Edison were deciding who was going to give us the contract. So we encumbered $500,000 to the other company. So we know we're not using them, so we're just putting that $500,000 on top of the original Con Edison PO to pay them for the remainder of the year.
It's still a little confusing to me. But can we, going forward, can we make sure that the numbers are written very clear? I can't see if that's supposed to be a 1.6 or 1.5. Okay?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Okay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation, the financial history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and to receive legal advice on a pending matter. Need a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Are they coming back? Oh, we're gonna, that's gonna be a resolution.
I didn't get anything from him, so.
We're gonna talk to me about that.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.